Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about a very large, powerful, and particularly dangerous winter storm that could be occurring into this upcoming weekend. It is really not that far out. It is only 1 to 2 days out from kind of reaching its maximum strength, and it's already occurring and developing across the western United States. But again, the worst of this storm is still yet to come. And I said particularly dangerous. I mentioned, or I said that on purpose because there is a growing threat, a growing concern with this system and its severe weather potential outbreak that it could bring, both on Thursday, so tomorrow evening, but especially on Friday evening, and also obviously the snow that it could bring, and of course the heavy rain that will be associated with this system. And then I don't want to ruin people's, I guess, expectations, but right after this system, there's going to be more storms, one after the other, some even bigger than the one that we're seeing now, but hopefully not as dangerous, as this one truly looks to be the most kind of unique and, if you will, concerning. So, yeah, let's start talking about that, and let's not, drag this out further than needed. So right now we do have the system that is kind of I'm sorry about that. We do have two parts of the system, right? So one part of this system that yesterday was still one part when I was making the video, it was bringing snow across the Sierra Nevada. Today you can still see there are some snow showers still occurring. I'll show you some of the snowfall amounts in just a minute there. But notice that across the north we have a lot of snow across, very far north, across the prairies of Canada. This was further earlier on in the day across Alberta and into Idaho, the panhandle of Idaho. They got quite a bit of snow, and into Montana as well. And the second part of the system is bringing snow to the Wasatch, a lot of Salt Lake City area getting some snow earlier. Right now it's more of a rain-snow mix, but earlier it was almost a whole metro initially was seeing, pretty heavy snowfall rates. And that's the thing with this thing; it's a pretty quick hitter, but it leaves quite a bit of snow relatively quickly. And if I were to show you some of these snowfall amounts across the Sierra Nevada, you would notice that there are areas here that picked up 12 inches over the past 24 hours, but a lot of that fell, the bulk of that, anywhere from 6 to 10 inches of that fell within just a few hours of I guess, occurring. So yeah, the snowfall rates were really prolific. I know that some of these ones here, 6 inches, these were rather, I already saw these popping up yesterday, November 1st. I think I could find one of those snowfall reports. I was convinced that I saw one here earlier. Right there, you could see the Meadows, Tulum, I don't know how to say that, Meadows, California, November 1st, 8:30 p.m. So yesterday already, a bulk of that snow fell. Nothing, incredible, but impressive nonetheless. And you can see there's where that second wave produced snow across Idaho, Montana, and into Canada. So we're really focused on this one because that second one just goes way too far to the north to really concern us, majorly, if you will. But notice we do have snow across Utah. Good news, right? They need this rain here. It is slight rain there across Lake Mead, so that's also good, getting some much needed rainfall there. Nothing incredible, but better than nothing. Let's go now to the radar, or the simulated radar, and time this system out. So let's use the HER model. This is a good model. It's a very precise model. It only goes out to 48 hours every few hours, but because it goes out only so far, it focuses on kind of the short-term details, so it's more precise. Let's just focus here on the western United States for now. Notice this is what it shows occurring on the radar as of 7 p.m. And if you were to look at the radar, you can see that's around accurate. That's kind of what we have. Sorry about that. That's kind of what we have going on. So there's the radar and there's the model. So decently accurate. Let's move this forward. Notice that across Utah, the snow will continue into the overnight hours. It will start abating quite significantly in strength towards the morning hours as it moves into the Colorado Rockies and more of Wyoming. Do note that there isn't a defined low pressure with the system yet. However, right here, we have a low pressure that is working together with another low pressure further north across Canada and a high pressure across the southeastern United States that is pumping a lot of this warm, moist air very far towards the north. So the environment is set up here for a low pressure to kind of really quickly intensify, and that's why the severe weather threat will be really amplified by that, the warm, moist air that it's been continuously, the air mass is already saturated here. It's been warm for a few days now, extremely warm for November standards. So notice there's that snow. You can see into tomorrow morning. It's still occurring across Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, into the Arizona area. Lake Mead is still potentially seeing a little bit of rain and snow kind of mixing there. As I put this forward into time, what we do see is the cold front of that previous part of that system. So let me zoom out now into more of the widespread range. This low pressure that brought that snow into Canada is starting to develop a little cold front, and this low pressure moisture kind of quickly starts tracking along that. So notice that tomorrow late in the afternoon hours, her model is rather aggressive with this, and I want to say that because a lot of models don't necessarily show the snow moving out as profoundly as the her model shows it moving out into the plains here. But this is kind of what makes it a bit unfortunate, because there's relatively low confidence on precisely how this thing will evolve because of how explosive it is. We do know that there will be severe weather threat. There will be areas with heavy snow. Obviously, there already was across the Sierra, in Canada and the U.S., or sorry, the northwestern United States. But notice that as I put this into the overnight hours, we obviously see the severe weather starting to pop up here across southern Kansas, and that's the first night, right? Thursday night, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas panhandles. That's kind of the area of concern. We could have some pretty strong thunderstorms. Notice cities like North Platte most likely getting them, according if this, the system were to pan out like this model shows us, there will be quite a bit of heavy snow across area of Nebraska into portions of northwestern Iowa. Further south, you can see there is still heavy rain. Now this thing, already looks pretty impressive. There's a decent amount of snow falling across areas that haven't seen snow yet this year. So that's already something that is could cause some I guess concerns, if you will, for travel and whatnot. Do note we have another system moving in, producing a lot of snow for Idaho, and really Idaho profoundly. So yeah, that's what I mean. It's just gonna be one after the other. But notice what happens through the day on Friday as this system is going through. Right, so obviously there's gonna be a storm potential, rather spotty and quick. They shouldn't be too strong. But as we get towards the afternoon and especially the evening hours, this system, obviously the HER model you could see shows quite a bit of heavy rain with this on the northern side, and quite a bit of heavy snow. I'm not too sure that snow will be as expansive as this model shows us. And if I were to put this in the next few hours, you would see an explosion of activity to the south, except this only takes us out to 48 hours, which stops us at 1 p.m. on Friday. So that's a bit unfortunate. But do note that in the meantime, the amount of rain that will fall across some of these areas, let's go back and click on that, will be rather extensive and pretty profound. So portions of Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas could easily pick up 1 inch to maybe even 2 inches, and this system isn't even done. It's going to slow down and intensify, so those amounts of rain will be exaggerated. And also the snow, pretty decent. Again, I'm not really convinced the snowfall amounts will be this high, across Kansas and Nebraska. It's a possibility. There has been a trend towards that with the models overall the last day, but obviously, for the details, please go to your local National Weather Service, as they will have the most accurate data with this, as this is it's honestly a hard to predict storm. There's been a lot of variability with this thing, so that's definitely not something you like to see. Let me go and take you on a slightly further model scenario. So you can see the NAM 3KM goes out to 60 hours, completely different. Almost has no snowy side to this. It does initially when it comes out of the plains late Thursday and into early Friday. But it really doesn't have much at the same time frame. I mean, you saw that difference between the HER and that NAM. Almost no snow here. But what the NAM does allow us to see is the explosion of the severe weather as it goes out a bit further. So notice 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Look what happens across Oklahoma, Texas, large metros, Dallas, Oklahoma City, further south, maybe even to Houston, picking up a lot of this severe weather action. And look, this whole thing gets lit up, right? Pretty far to the north, potentially even severe weather because of, or just powerful storms, because of how saturated and warm this air mass is. Let me focus in on the eastern United States so you can slightly see this better. You can see the NAM really lights it up with, obviously, potentially damaging winds across Texas, maybe some more supercell, large hail activity further towards the north. I would not be surprised if there's going to be a, moderate risk category issued for the amount of severe weather that is potentially going to be going on here. Let's go look at some of the longer range models, so like the GFS. So again, there's that system across the west. You can see barely seeing, but this is what it's going to look like tomorrow in the afternoon. You can see slowly moving out into Nebraska. The Nebraska Panhandle, or central Nebraska, you could expect some snow, right? Maybe not as much as a HER model showed, but don't be surprised if you do see a coating of snow, because there's definitely the possibility for that. Notice we see that heavy rain starting to slow down and intensifying across the Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and into portions of Missouri area. And then we see that severe weather threat just blow up in the afternoon. Look at that giant red blob. That is definitely a damaging wind threat on the cold front side of this thing. And you can see we start seeing a deepening low pressure. It's at 1,000 millibars, then it's 995, 984, and it takes on that classic comma-shaped low fashion, which if it were to be cold enough, and the GFS has slightly trended towards this, there could be some snow on the backside, and obviously where that snow would fall, it would be extremely heavy. So not only wet because of how marginal these temperatures are when this snow is occurring, but also because of how the rate of at which it will be falling at will be very significant. So that's something to keep in mind. And notice it continues showing some of that snow conversion into the arrowhead of Minnesota and Wisconsin. This could be occurring for the morning commute for many on Saturday. So Saturday, less of a commuter day, still nonetheless something to keep in mind. Notice that cold front races through the deep south, starts breaking up further north. Still, a lot of rain potentially with that, especially where that system slows down initially across Iowa. And then it's out of here. Yeah, it gets away, pretty quickly, but that's good because there's a lot more action going on west that you can't see right now. Let's take a look at the total accumulated precipitation from this system, and let's just go back to the continental United States. Notice, obviously, it shows a large swath of, heavy rain, 2 to 4, even 5 inches of rainfall. Obviously, if you have several large storms that occur one after the other, you could, thunderstorms, you could see, localized amounts 4 or 5 inches, maybe even 6, and this will be a heavy rainmaker. The atmospheric water content is running pretty high for this time of the year. Let's take a look at the snowfall. So again, this will be really hard to predict. Obviously, the mountains are a bit more clearer because we have more confidence in that. But in Nebraska, there could be some amounts that approach 2-3 inches, maybe even as far east as central Nebraska. That's hard to tell. And obviously, once that system, if it were to get a bit of that snow converting on the backside of this thing, once it's racing into Minnesota, we could get some bursts of heavy snow that drop 1 to 2, maybe even 3 inches of snow. So this is it's a tough scenario. Sorry about that, and we're gonna have to keep monitoring these short range models, especially as they're going to have a better and better handle of this as we get closer in time to this, as we're still again a little bit away from this system occurring, not too far out, uncomfortably not far out, but yeah. So do note that this is the European model, so slightly different just look perspective, right? That's why I showed you these models as kind of like different news sources. You look at many just to get a thorough picture of what's actually going on without its own biases, which each model kind of carries. Notice the HER model does show that first low pressure right here, exaggerating that warm air getting pumped into the United States. There's that high pressure I was talking about earlier, and you can see how this all works together, right? These three pieces creating this trifecta of perfection for this system to move into. Again, there could be some snow on the backside. You can see the European, overall the global model is not showing too awfully much there, but what it does show is that powerful cold front venturing, obviously for producing its first wave of activity across the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma and into Kansas, and then that bigger day is on Friday, which you can see the European really starts showing later on in the afternoon. Right here, boom, you can see it explodes and all those yellows and what's not. The system starts slowing down quite significantly, starts intensifying. Again, look at that low pressure dropping 996, and potentially again a little bit of snow maybe on the backside of this. We'll have to see. The European has been going back and forth with that all week with regard to that snow on the backside of it, so the confidence isn't too high. And notice that that severe weather does subside pretty quickly, but early Saturday morning it could still be pretty active across the south central United States, but by Saturday evening and into Sunday it quickly dies down, and what we do see is a quick kind of exit of this system. But again, I said that's a good thing because, well, look further out west. We see a giant storm, right, bringing loads of precip over the weekend for the northwest. Nothing really comes of that one. You can see it kind of scurries away. It's too far to the north. But the second one is more concerning. You can see it's more to the south. It has even more moisture associated with it. And you can see this one potentially develops into some sort of a beast, which different models have different perspectives on it. But yeah, it looks, I would say the European out of all the models keeps it the most tame. The GFS and Canadian really develop a kind of a monster out of this system. So even potentially more impactful than this one we have going on in the next few days that I was focusing most of the video on. And let me just show you that with the European model. So there's that first system. Again, right, this is a slightly different look. This is the actual precipitation rate. Earlier I was showing you like the simulated radar. Notice there's, again, the band of extremely heavy snow. If it were to occur, definitely a possibility right there. And do note that as I put this forward, we see that first system across the Northwest, again, agreeing with the European, doesn't evolve into really anything significant. Does bring, obviously, heavy snow and rain across the Northwest. But the second one, further towards the south, has more access to the Gulf of Mexico. Moisture, again, pumping very, very strong, warm southerly winds from the south, bringing in that moisture. And look, it develops into a potential blizzard across the northern plains, southern Canada, and then there's that second part of it, and you can see this one also evolves into a fierce system if this were to occur. Again, not too terribly far out, 204 hours out. Definitely a lot of change will happen between now and then, but the models have been rather consistent with this, and you can see that one scurries out away, and then maybe finally we enter a little bit of a quieter period. But the GFS, you can see, keeps us entertained with some threat of a nor'easter right there, pretty far out. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Definitely not something that is going to be boring this first half of November. Canadian model goes out to 240. I like it. It's probably my third favorite. You know, European GFS tied for first, and then, well, I guess it's my second favorite model, and then the Canadian would be take second. So again, here's that system. It shows, you can see, decently in line with what the European and GFS show. It's just forecasting that snow is going to be a nightmare. You know, whether or not that will explode, you know, because if it does happen, it's going to produce a lot. If it doesn't, it's going to be nothing. So that's kind of the threat there. Notice the west thing, that first system, again, nothing really comes of it, but we see continued moisture flow, and we do see that first wave, that first system, again, developing further north. Still powerful, giant cold front, right? There could be, you know, severe weather occurring across the same areas that got snow, that we'll be seeing snow the next, you know, tomorrow across Nebraska. And then we see that second kind of part of it, and you can see this one also develops into a very similar feature that the GFS shows. So that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on for. So, Storm Prediction Center regarding the severe weather, yes, it's going to be a longer video. I am talking fast. I'm trying to get a lot of this in because there's so much to cover. Notice Thursday, so tomorrow, again, there's that first day across the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas and maybe even southeastern Kansas. Also getting in on that. It's a slight, so it's a 2 out of 5, not terribly high, but again, that's, you know, for severe thunderstorms. So it's not your regular thunderstorms. It's your nasty ones, the ones that are usually, you know, memorable, and you take out your phone and record type of thunderstorm. So the biggest threat is going to be, you could see wind, though hail and tornadoes are going to be a marginal threat, but again, the wind is probably going to be the biggest concern. And you can see that on Friday they already issued a enhanced here, especially across Texas. I would not be surprised if there's going to be a moderate issued, though you know, again, I don't want to, you know, be an alarmist and whatnot. You know, the difference between a 3 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5 is obviously there, but the message remains the same, that the severe weather threat is going to be rather high. You can see the slight area of severe weather is pretty high as well. And, you know, further north, there are thunderstorm risks and threats, but they will be non-severe mainly and producing a lot of, you know, heavy rain. So you can see right there where we have the greatest risk, and you can see large cities. I mean, you know, in the right there in that little hot spot, it's just shy, just, you know, just east of Houston, or sorry, of Dallas, and if that expands, that could definitely be included there. But, you know, Tyler, Longview, Texarkana, Arkansas, Paris, Texas, and then larger cities and a slight, obviously, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth. And then in marginal, it's Kansas City, Wichita, Corpus Christi, Laredo, Brownsville, so also large metros in those areas. So that's definitely, you know, one concern. The snow's the other concern, and yeah, it's a multi-phase system, and you can see this is what it looks like right now, sitting across Utah. And kind of portions of southern Wyoming. So that's going to be, you know, interesting to see what comes of this thing. Again, there's quite a bit of disagreements amongst especially the short-range models, way more, sorry, than we would like at this time of the, you know, of the evolution in this system. I could show you the RAP model. It's also similar to the HER model. It's a short-range model. It goes out around 50 hours every, few hours, similarly to the Her model. And you can see it has slightly fresher data. It's from the 21 model, 21Z, so it's just a few hours older, or sorry, newer. And you can see it shows again that first wave of that system getting sheared out, drawn out. It did produce pretty heavy snow across southern Canada there. And then you can see that second part starting to get its act together. Slow at first, very slowly. It's going to sit pretty much all day tomorrow across the basins of the Rockies there. And it does finally get moving on it, and similarly to the Her model, you can see it shows quite a bit of snow coming out on the northern side of it into central Nebraska. So that's interesting that the short-range models are showing that, and then you can see it starts developing that nasty cold front, and then we start getting that severe weather and potentially more of a snowy scenario. We'll have to see. That's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on for. And of course, for the Northwest folks, you have another beast of a system moving in at that time. You can see dropping a lot of snow and rain across these areas. So total accumulated precipitation just through the next 50 hours, pretty broad, especially, I mean, obviously this catches your eye, but look at some of these totals here. That could definitely be a risk for flooding. And there could also be quite a bit of heavy snow across the mountainous areas, and maybe even across, Nebraska, if that event, that snow becomes a bit more aggressive than previously thought. But you could see, some of these snowfall amounts here are going to be pretty impressive. And some of this could fall in just a few hours before transitioning to rain as the system pushes in from the west. Alright, that's basically it, guys. It was a lot of info, but hopefully you guys have a better understanding of this. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.